I really appreciate everybody taking the time, joining today, sharing in what this event will be. There you are, Tracy. Hi. And hopefully, not only being inspired to join the program, I feel a little bit like I'm preaching to the converted. Um, but to talk about what the event is, and then hopefully people can be inspired to invite other people and to help promote the course, and um, partly because it's our big yearly fundraiser. So it's an opportunity for us to um, help keep the organization afloat. But more so, I just think the teachings are very beautiful, mostly accessible for everybody. They're a very amazing combination of like accessible for people or relatable, and then deeply profound and deeply radical. So, and we'll go over it a little bit today, like exactly what to expect in these teachings. So our goal is to get a preview, to understand what you might be signing up for, but then hopefully um, people will help promote the event, and also just to spread the word to people that they think might really benefit from Geshe Michael's teachings. So that's our plan, um, and I'm hoping we can uh, provide some assets that people can share towards the end. So in the background, Benji and Sophie, if you can get ready for that, that would be great. Mm, how many people, by a show of hands, went to the Magic of Empty Teachers last year? Cool. That's a lot of hands. So I want to talk a little bit about where does these are it's called the Quiet Retreat teachings. So when Geshe Michael when he went into his 3-year retreat, he came out 2 times a year and he taught what became known as, or what were called, the Quiet Retreat teachings. So I want to talk about the history of those teachings, or what place do they have in Geshe Michael's legacy? Because I think it's a bit of a lost story. Um, and for those that weren't around 25 years ago, you know, might not get the whole feel of how these fit into Geshe Michael's life, because it really marks a transition. So in the 1990s, Geshe Michael lived in New York, and he taught the Foundation series. Um, he consolidated his 20 years of study into 18 courses, and in the 90s taught those foundational courses. And that was a 7-year program. And at that time, he was still working in the diamond business. So he wasn't as accessible. He wasn't, teaching at the level that he teaches at now. as far as frequency. There wasn't all of the projects that we have now. There was the ALL project, was called ACIP, I think, at that time. DCI hadn't started yet. Or maybe it had at that time. The original name was the Enlightened EBI, Enlightened Business Institute, or EBM, Enlightened Business Management. And there just was the whole world of, the worldview organizations was much smaller. There was no internet. There was no Zoom. We didn't have opportunities to teach internationally meant flying to a different country. And which meant the access was more rare to go to a teaching. The accessibility was much different. And so at the end of this 7-year program, Geshe Michael announced going into 3-year retreat. And that was very kind of radical at that time. No one had really heard of 3-year retreat. Would the organization survive without him for 3 years? Who's gonna ensure that the ALL project doesn't fail? Would all of the study groups around the country fall apart? And how would this retreat run? So it marks this transition of kind of business person, but very traditional teacher of a Buddhist philosophy, then going into 3-year retreat and changing kind of into yogi, like Geshe Michael in the period of his life where he was, being a yogi, 3-year retreat, long hair, studying the yoga scriptures, translating yoga. And that's this period of the quiet retreat teachings, 3 years. And then coming out of that into, really continuing to teach yoga, philosophy, starting to teach much more business, and to then kind of start teaching the higher teachings, the Diamond Way teachings. So it's like this 3-year retreat is like this cocoon where the caterpillar has gone in, and there's this cocoon, and then this metamorphosis into something much more global, something, where this evolution from Foundation Way teachings into Diamond Way teachings. And that cocoon, these 3-year retreat teachings are very mystical. They're very, no one had done them outside of Asia for the most part. And there was no, like I said, there's no internet. There's no social media. There's no smartphones. So there's very, very few photos of this 3-year retreat. It was quite anonymous, or there wasn't really any way to know much about it. No one could go in except the caretakers. There's no website. There's just um, I don't know. It's hard to think about how did we communicate about events back in the day. Pre website, pre social media. And I remember we got down um, to the city closest to the where the event was, and we met at a grocery store. And people were given a piece of paper with a map. Here's where the event is. Follow the map that someone had hand drawn. Take this exit. Pull over on the side of the road. At the sign. Someone had posted a sign with little balloons or something. And and the retreat location really is in the middle of nowhere in the desert, a different location than the present Diamond Mountain. Um, and you had to, pull off the highway and open a cattle guard, like this big gate that keeps the cows on the land. It's ranch land. There's no buildings on it. It's cactuses and cows and sand. It's desert, coyotes. And so we would have to open the gate and let the line of cars go through and then close the gate. And then we would, drive another 10 minutes and there'd be another gate. Someone would have to get out, open the gate. The cars would drive through. And it was really, very dusty. The road was terrible. And there was always 5 crows at that first gate, which was a little strange for the desert. Um, and there was 5 people in retreat. So, the first time I went there didn't really seem like a big deal. There was 5 crows flying around right at the gate. And then the second time I went, same thing, 5 crows. I was like, oh, that's weird. And every time I went, which was probably 5 times, 5 of the 6, same thing, 5 crows right at the first gate. And years later, I found out that the crow is a traditional protector. It's like the animal that protects the retreat of like this lineage of 3 retreats. There's a animal totem or an animal protector, and that's a crow. And so, uh, it kind of felt very mystical, and it felt like when we would get there, the land feels very old, very ancient, and we would meet in silence and walk to the edge of their retreat boundary. And it was a very special time. And I think, I'll post a little bit. I'll post a little bit of the talk. Hold on a second. This particular teaching is called To the Inner Kingdom. Um, so we'll talk about it in a sec. I'll talk about it in a sec, but it wasn't from scripture. It was Geshe Michael's poetry. He says, I want to read it And then we'll play a little bit of the audio. A lot of people won't understand the audio, but to get a feel for how difficult it was for Geshe Michael to speak during quiet retreat, to get a feel for the voice and the cadence. So here's what the first line says. This is from the poem that he teaches. There'll be some standing here who will not taste of death till they see the kingdom. That's the theme of the teaching. This idea of there being a outer kingdom and an inner kingdom. And in Sanskrit, it's Jivan Mukti. In Western Chinese, it's Luma Pangpor. I think there's more to it. Luma Pangpor, can't remember the rest. But how? He says that the choice is those you love, ripped away over the edge. One house crumbles, the other is sold. The empty feeling of the unfulfilled, monotony to the grave. You are not meant to lie within the egg. Pierce the shell. See the world in color. Fly to the empty sky. So it's a little mystical. He never retaught these teachings. And so I was thinking about that because there's some of my favorite teachings. There's some of the most, I think, the most beautiful teachings Geshe Michael ever gave. They're so personal. They're so heartfelt because it's his poetry. It's not, it's so very, very rare. He's not teaching Jetsun Kappa, Chone Lama. So I'm just wondering, like, why did he never teach these again? You know, the Yoga Sutra he reteaches, the Lamrim he reteaches. Why never reteach these? And I was thinking about my own 3-year retreat, and I spoke towards the end. I was asked to give a 1-hour talk, and I could never give that talk again. It'd be impossible. Like, you just can't be in the same mindset. The talk you can give from within 3-year retreat could never be replicated because you just can't be in that same state of mind, I don't think. Like, you can't teach the truth of 3-year retreat from outside of retreat as you can inside a retreat. The mind is just fundamentally different in some ways. And I just suspect that's why he never retaught it, because you can't, in a sense. It would never be the same. It could never be the same. And so they were never retaught. And I thought that was such a shame. And so last year we started to revive the teachings. And I tried to track down people that were actually there. And I asked some long-term students who, had studied the teachings to share their insights. And so we try to reteach those teachings through the eyes of people that were there, people that have studied with Geshe Michael for 20 years. And to try to access those deep teachings through their eyes. I've been trying to convince Geshe Michael to show up, but so far no luck. Here's the sorry, I had it wrong. Here's the transcript of the audio clip we'll play in a second. He says, same idea. I say to you that there's some here who will not taste death before they see the kingdom. And he says it means you will, you'll pass into this place he's calling the kingdom before you die. Again, in Sanskrit, jiva mukti. So jivan is like a living being or alive, a person. And mukti means freedom. Sometimes has the meaning of like freedom from like nirvana, or freedom from all negative emotions. And the Western Chinese Luma Pangpur Dakpakachu. Dakpakachu is the name of a specific paradise. Dakpakachu is very famous in our lineage. Luma Pangpur Dakpakachu Dudrowa. So Luma Pangpur means before you lose this body, you'll reach this heaven. And he said, and that's why we came here. In the teaching, he says, I think that's why we came here. And then he stops and he says, no, I know that's why we came here. That's what we're trying to do. Like, we're trying to reach that place. We're trying to reach that place of heaven. Dakpakachu. And I really remember feeling when we did our own 3-year retreat that was the sense that people had of like, let's see if these teachings are real. Let's see if we've studied them for 15 years. The goal of 3-year retreat really lends itself to the highest of aspirations. And let's listen to the audio clip. Hopefully.
Where?
It's
Where
embedded in the PPT on the first slide.
PPT audio.
I'll give Sophie a second.
Yeah, I don't have. Sophie, can you share?
It's the PowerPoint?
Yeah, in the PowerPoint.
If you play the PowerPoint, the audio is embedded inside.
Yeah, I'm hoping it should work out.
No.
With any luck.
对啊，我想说你为什么OK？是打那个，所以他
Selena,
Sorry,
look through the Telegram. You got the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I need a minute. Wait. I will say when ready.
Let me see if I can play it.
In my PPT, I don't have audio.
Sorry, folks. Give me a sec. This is Let's see.
Verily, I say to you, there are some standing here
Can
who
you?
will not raise up back before they see the kingdom. But it means you will pass into the kingdom before you die. Jivan Mukti. Jivan means while you are still alive, before you die. Mukti means freedom. Luma Bangba Dabaka to the door. Luma Bangba means before you lose this body, you will reach heaven. And that, I don't think that's why we came here. That's what we are doing. We're trying to reach this place.
So this is the teaching site. You know, in the middle of a wash, in the middle of the desert, right at the edge of their retreat. And you can see two curtained off areas where the other retreatants sat behind so that they couldn't see the audience. Geshe Michael taught with a blindfold so that he couldn't see who was there. And I'll show two more pictures. This is Geshe, for those that know her. Yeah, interesting. A lot of faces I don't recognize anymore, but I do recognize this one. There's me doing some dishes. You know, it really was out in the middle of nowhere, and a very very special time. So that's a little taste of I hope to give a sense of where did these quiet retreat teachings sit in the legacy of Geshe Michael? And then these specific teachings, how raw they were, how emotionally raw, and how transitional this time period was, and kind of unique, I think, in the world of, in the legacy of Geshe Michael. They're different. These teachings are different, and so to be exposed to what was in his heart as opposed to a scripture was very cool. So what did he talk about? He talked about a outer heaven and an inner heaven, outer kingdom and an inner kingdom, and that we can achieve those two in this life. Jivan Mukti, in this life. That's the goal. And he doesn't say it, but it's reflective of the two stages of the Diamond Way teachings. And this was before he had ever taught any Diamond Way teachings. So, we didn't know it at the time, but that's what he's teaching. He's teaching the results, or it's the beginning of him teaching the Diamond Way teachings, really. And he starts by, what's the content of the teaching? He starts by asking us to recognize how many people have helped us in our life. And like to recognize that we're just passed off from person to person to person that takes care of us. And he's like, have some appreciation for the fact that it seems like we've just been looked after by, countless people constantly. And then one of the most, I remember just feeling so blown away when he said, it seems like the more they help us, the less we appreciate it, which was so depressing. If someone cooks me a meal, I'm deeply appreciative that they would take the time and think to invite me and go shopping and, make the meal and clean up. But if someone did that 10,000 times, like my mom, suddenly I have the liberty to complain about it. Suddenly I have the audacity to, this is not my favorite meal, or why is it late, or just to be unappreciative. And Geshe Michael talked about, that's one thing with someone that cooks us a meal, but it's also like that with spiritual teachings. A teacher comes in with a big name and they come to teach, and everyone brings offerings. Everyone's excited. But if they teach 3 times a week, then what? It's almost like it's a bit of a pain in the, like I got to go to class again. It's almost like it's a pain in the ass suddenly. We just had class. So I got other things I want to do. The second thing he talked about, what do we need to get to this outer heaven, to get to the inner heaven? We need some renunciation. And like good life disasters are helpful in that, to get us away from the pursuit of happiness through the pursuit of things. And he relates, it's like there's a inner heaven that's like an inner circle, and there's an outer heaven which is a bigger circle. But outside of both of those is deep meditation, is samadhi. And you can't get to the outer heaven or the inner heaven without going through the surrounding area, which is samadhi. And his description of samadhi was very beautiful. Like the feeling of being in samadhi as opposed to a definition. And what are the obstacles to samadhi? He talked a lot about that. One just being stuff, possessions. And he said, the more we have, the worse it is. Right? The more stuff we have, the harder it is to have samadhi. And from my perspective, to be in 3-year retreat and to say that is very interesting, because in retreat, you learn how little you need and how that simplicity is happiness. In 3-year retreat, I was trying to remember today, like, what did I have in 3-year retreat? And it was like a yoga mat, a meditation cushion. I had 1 chair. I had 1 couch, dishes, like a few clothes. And that was absolutely everything I needed. But the mind gets a little restless, and you have a chance to observe that the mind wants things. And it's not about the thing, it's just about the habit of wanting and the attempt to deal with the habit of desire through like add to cart. Like there's this stop therapy of happiness, or like I'm restless, I'm bored, go on a website, add to cart. This little moment of happiness. And then, for me, often I'll see a package and I won't even remember what I ordered. Like, did I order that? Like, it's not even about the thing I ordered. I just want to add something to the cart. And there's just no opportunity for that in 3 retreat, and you don't need it. Although in retreat, I did ask for a hockey stick at one point. It did seem like a essential retreat necessity. It's by year 2. It was like, please send me a hockey stick. So we're getting close to the end of our time, but he talks about obstacles to samadhi, and it's very interesting that in 2001, it's newspapers and TV. There's no smartphones yet. There's no screen time doesn't make the list in 2001, and it's maybe the most relevant issue for us today about samadhi. So we'll definitely, talk to the speakers at the event about that, and how do we deal with that as a practitioner? Because it's these things that prevent us from reaching the outer heaven and the inner heaven. The outer heaven, he talks about recognizing. So we start with gratitude for people. And then the outer heaven is recognizing we're surrounded by teachers. And then the inner heaven, he talks about the outer heaven is using the World Wide Web. This is how he referred to it. Outer heaven using the internet. Inner heaven is being the internet. Outer heaven is using the internet. Inner heaven is being the internet. And the internet, the inner heaven, reaching a place where we truly see every single living being as someone to take care of. And that's the purpose of life. And that until we realize that, we will never, ever be happy. So our journey, means that we have to fight these obstacles to samadhi, have some gratitude about the countless people that have helped us. Reach that outer heaven where we really do see teachers everywhere. Use the internet. And then inner heaven, be that teacher, be that friend, be that one that will comfort every single being in the universe. And it gets to be this very radical teaching. And it's one of the things I love about this quiet retreat teachings is that in some ways they're so approachable, and in some ways they're totally radical. And I think Geshe Michael as a teacher can make the radical seem normal. You know, there he is in a 3-year retreat in the middle of the desert, blindfolded, teaching to people, you know, on blankets, sitting in the sand, really in the middle of nowhere, talking about becoming a person that could look at all beings with total love, and saying like, that's what you're meant to do in your life. And if you don't get there, you'll never be happy. You'll never be truly happy. And, you know, to take the radical and make it sound normal is so inspiring and amazing. And that's the journey we'll embark on next weekend, to look at these teachings through the eyes of his students. I was going to do a bunch of stuff like lead a meditation and talk about the last meditation. The last meditation involves a sword that you visualize to generate the inner heat. And he had this massive sword from someone who brought or sent from England that they had in retreat. And we'll have to go to the teachings for that. But the last day of the meditation is really, really off the charts. We've run out of time for today. We have 3 minutes if anyone has a very interesting question, brief question.
I just want to share that I have this vision. It's almost like, you know, those movies where they go into these caves and like Indiana Jones. And I feel like you are that disciple. You're taking a deeper dive, you're going to the bottom of the ocean, and you found this ancient treasure chest. And you open it up, and everything that you see and experience, and you're just sharing it with us and rippling out this amazing lineage butterfly effect. So I just want to like bow down to you and say thank you for being there, and thank you for sharing. I'm so excited.
Yeah. That's nice. I'm happy to share it. So they're fantastic teachings. Somebody asked, did Geshe Michael have contact with his teacher during 3 retreat? If that teacher means his formal teacher, Ken Rinpoche, I don't think so. I don't really know though. And I'm trying to remember when his teacher passed away, if he was in retreat or not. Great question. Not totally sure, but there was, you know, it was during 9/11 happened during their retreat. And when the Twin Towers in New York, the planes flew into the Twin Towers, which, you know, was a radical change in the world, I think. And they didn't know about it. So when they came out of retreat, somebody had to, you know, get them caught up on the changes of 3 years. And you know, it's interesting to not know anything about the world for 3 years, and then to have to watch the the world in review, get caught back up on 3 years. So there was not communication going in and out of retreat at all, other than Geshe Michael asking for books or resources they would need. Not much communication. So that's next weekend. We'll have, some really great speakers. Next weekend, Hector Marcel, a friend in Sugangxi, Tin Lomhao, Jasmine, and Venerable Jigme will be there next weekend, who was the main caretaker, the main administrator for the whole retreat. And then weekend 2 will be Peter and Maria. From Vietnam, Mr. Bin will be teaching again. His talk last year was amazing. My friend Ben Kramer will share his ideas. The original director of Yoga Studies Institute of YSI, her name is Kimberly. She was at these teachings. She'll be there. Rob Haggerty, who is Geshe Michael's assistant right now, he was there. He'll be sharing. And then John Brady and Connie. That's the plan. I would love it if everybody could help spread the word. I think it'll be a good experience for people that are interested in journeying to the outer and inner heaven, and to get a peek at these very special teachings. And then, so we'll do Saturday, Sunday next week, Saturday, Sunday the weekend after, and then I think it's September. Yeah, September, we'll go through the whole poem line by line. And, the weekends are a little more the experience, what people, how that experience was for them, their highlights. And then in September, we'll go line by line through the whole thing. So that's the plan. Yeah, just trying to look at if there's any questions. Okay, cool. Sophie, thank you for being on top of all the production. Thank you, Karina. Rivas and translation team, thank you so much. Everybody that helps bring these teachings to people all over the world. Yashi, Sabrina, I see you there. I saw Luca. A big effort to bring these teachings to people in Vietnam, China, Russian-speaking countries. And I look forward to, introducing these teachings through the eyes of some great teachers next weekend. So hope you can join.